Hello, and thanks for joining us today. And a special thanks to our virtual box guests for taking time to join us ahead of tonight's speech. Traditionally, at the joint address, the First Lady would invite folks to join her in a private box so that you all could sit together and watch the speech live, but together. So the guests who join us today have advocated for and directly benefited from policies set forth by the president and his administration. And so we're lucky to have an opportunity to engage with you now virtually, because that's the only way we can do it. We're still following the science, and the president likes to say he will listen to the scientists. So without further ado, let me introduce you all to the First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden.
Thank you, Cedric. You know, every morning for the last 100 days, Joe has awakened with a sense of urgency. From getting the virus under control to common sense gun safety reform. From making sure that students have the broadband they need to learn, to defending LGBTQ rights. He knows that these aren't just issues to be debated or polled. They're the challenges that shape your lives, the things that keep you up at night. And he knows that you're counting on him for real solutions and that you can't wait. Every day when he heads down to the Oval Office or a meeting with his advisors, he takes you with him. Everything he does is for you. So thank you for being with us today and for sharing your stories. And now I'll pass it back to you, Cedric.
Okay, now I'm off of mute. But thank you, Dr. Biden. And now I want to quickly introduce you to all of our box guests that we actually have with us today, and give them a chance to share their stories. And if you want, you can wait till the end to give a response, or you can intervene as you would like. So with that, I'll first introduce you to Javier Quiros, a DACA recipient and nurse from Houston, Texas. We have Isabel Bolivian, who is the executive director of the Annandale Christian Community for Action Child Development Center in Virginia. We have Tatiana Washington, a gun violence prevention activist and organizer from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We have Stella Keene, a trans teens advocate from Tacoma, Washington, who works with the Gender Queen Project, and who recently testified before the Senate on benefits of the Equality Act. And finally, we have Theron Rutner, IT director for the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa in Wisconsin. Again, I thank you all for being here today and sharing your wonderful stories and experiences. And we'll start with you, Javier.
Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity to be here and share my story. I'm deeply humbled to be here. But let you guys know, my name is Javier Quiros Castro. I am a DACA recipient. I'm also a registered nurse here in Houston, Texas, and I work for Houston Methodist West. I'm currently taking care of COVID-19 patients and have been doing so since the pandemic started. Again, I'm born in Mexico. Parents brought me over to the United States for a better life. I arrived around the age of 3. I grew up here. This is what I call, this is home to me. Growing up undocumented was extremely challenging, but I was blessed to have hardworking parents that, started off as construction workers, selling food from our minivan trunk and cleaning homes. My parents are now business owners for 3 businesses, and they're successful despite all the many challenges. I was able to help them, and they were able to help me obtain higher education even while undocumented. And I, when I was graduating from my nursing program, DACA was implemented, and I was able to actually work. I was able to get a nursing license, and provided me with many, many opportunities. So now I'm here at the biggest medical center in the United States, and I've been serving my communities and I will continue to do so, especially during this pandemic. And it's been challenging, especially with the previous administration. But DACA has given me all sorts of opportunities, and I hope I can continue being in this country as a productive member of society, because there's still a lot of work to do during this pandemic.
And I'm so glad that you got your degree, Javier. And, I teach community college students. I teach a lot of nurses. And I always say that nurses are my best students. But I want to ask you, you worked all during this pandemic. How are you doing? I mean, mentally, how are you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been hard. There's been a lot of adjustment initially. And they asked us to step up and take care of COVID patients, and we stepped up. We had to serve the community, and I ended up catching COVID last year, unfortunately, and I was out for like a month. But as soon as I felt good, I came back to take care of COVID patients again, and now I am. Fast forward to today, I'm fully vaccinated, and I'm literally working right now. I'm talking to you guys on my lunch break because there was no way I was going to miss this opportunity to speak to you.
Well, thank you, Javier. God bless our nurses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Isabel.
Thank you, Dr. Biden, for this kind invitation to join you as your guest to the 2021 joint session of Congress. What an honor.
Thanks.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Isabel Vallivian, and I am the Executive Director of Virginia's ACA Child Development Center, which provides affordable, high-quality early education to children 3 months to 5 years. I began my career in early childhood education convinced that I could have a positive impact in the lives of young children. And as time passed, I realized that we do much more than that. In a way, we're nurturing our society. I also understood that in order to produce the desired outcome, we needed to ensure that those who care for young children are well supported. For the first time in my career, I can see that early childhood is not only achieving the spotlight it deserves, but is also gaining access to the funding that will allow us to do the job right. Dr. Biden, as an educator, you will agree that the reopening of the economy would falter if parents would not be able to return to work without having access to services and education that we provide. Now, let me tell you about ACA's experience. When the pandemic hit and everything closed, we knew that our children needed for us to remain open. Many of their parents were frontline workers and first responders. But we realized really fast that we could not meet that challenge alone. So we reached out to the community at large. We started with our Virginia's governor and first lady, local government, the private sector, and foundations, as well as the hundreds of volunteers and 27 churches that make up ACA. And yes, the administration approved a PPP loan, which was recently forgiven. In short, we took an all-hands-on-deck approach, thinking outside of the box, and it worked. I can tell you firsthand that this year's increased federal funding to enhance childcare services is making a positive, long-lasting difference in the lives of children and the families that we serve. Parents are going to be able to return to work knowing that their children will be well taken care of and having access to affordable, high-quality programs like ACA. Furthermore, the administration's funding is offering much-needed relief to families by temporarily waiving the parents' portion of the cost of childcare, providing access to childcare for families while they look for work, increasing the household income eligibility limit so parents are in a better position to qualify for subsidy programs, and paying for personal protective equipment so that teachers are safe and are able to do their job in a very safe way. None of these would be achieved without the administration's efforts. We as Americans must come together, giving our best to ensure that every child grows knowing that they are worth the time, the effort, and the investment. Thank you, Dr. Biden, and also thanks to the President for your leadership and unwavering support for education.
Thank you, Isabel. And I have to say, you know, I'm so proud of Joe because he saw that we needed early childhood education and we needed to support those teachers who teach those children. And so it was so needed. And we saw that, like you're saying, during the pandemic, it was crucial that we had good early childhood education. So I want to say thank you to you because you do make a difference in children's lives. And I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. We'll now turn it over to Tatiana.
Hi. First, to our First Lady, I want to say thank you for your invitation and your continued advocacy and passion for gun violence prevention. Like so many people living in this country, gun violence is something that is very personal to me. Even just growing up in Milwaukee, last year, 700 people were shot in my city, 700. March 11th, 2017 is a day I will never forget. It is the day I lost my Aunt Sherda in a murder-suicide at the hands of her husband, a Milwaukee police officer. It is also the day that my little cousins lost their parents, not to mention witness this horrific act. Gun violence does not only affect one person, but so many because it has such a ripple effect. It tears families and communities apart. Gun violence, domestic violence, and police violence are all interconnected and tied back to our nation's history and culture of violence and marginalization. We have to reimagine what public safety looks like and work as a collective to transform our communities. And it's time for us to address the root causes of violence because enough is enough. And I'm so grateful for the administration who has listened to the demands of gun violence survivors and activists all over the country. The American Jobs Plan includes $5 billion to community violence intervention programs. Just last week, myself and over 40 of my peers at March for Our Lives lobbied Congress directly to protect this $5 billion investment portion of the American Jobs Plan. We hope that we will gain more allies in Congress that will join President Biden and fight to make sure this investment stays in the plan. And I'm just confident and I'm hopeful that this is just the beginning of change and that we all come together and really fight to end this epidemic so there's no more lives destroyed due to gun violence. Thank you.
Tatiana, I want to thank you for what you're doing. And you're right, there's just too much gun violence. We should have no gun violence in this country. And it's something that my husband, Joe, has worked on for years and years and years. And you're right, now change is coming. So thank you for your commitment. And I'm so sorry for the loss of your aunt. But look what you're doing. You found purpose after you lost her. And I think that's so important. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tatiana. We'll turn it over now to Stella.
Hi, Dr. Biden. I'm Stella Keating, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm incredibly excited and grateful to be here with you today. And thank you for inviting me. I'm 16 years old, and I live with my parents who are next to me in Tacoma, Washington. I'm a sophomore in high school. I love history, and I have big goals for myself. I also happen to be transgender. Ever since I was little, I have always been drawn to politics, and when I was in the 4th grade, I testified before my school board for more innovative programs in my elementary school, and it was so thrilling. I knew at that moment that being a voice for positive change was something that I wanted to be part of, and that's what's led me to be part of a movement called the Gender Cool Project. Gender Cool has a super simple mission: help replace opinions with real positive experiences meeting transgender and non-binary youth who are thriving. We know that when people just have a chance to meet us, their opinions change. And that's why I chose to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee on behalf of the Equality Act. I wanted our senators to get to know me as a person, and I had no idea that I would be making history as the youngest transgender person to ever testify before the US Senate. And my family and I have just received an overwhelming amount of love and support. I'm so inspired by the president's commitment to all LGBTQ plus Americans, including his support of the Equality Act. From his executive order ensuring an education free from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, to his first ever proclamation for the Transgender Day of Visibility. I just can't stop smiling. Finally, to hear President Biden say, all human beings should be treated with respect and dignity and should be able to live without fear, no matter who they are or whom they love, told me that I am valued, that I matter, and that I belong. This gives me hope, and more importantly, it gets me excited about my future. Dr. Biden, thank you so much for this amazing opportunity.
Oh, Stella, I am so excited for your future too. And I love that you're interested in politics, and I hope you decide to run for office because, you know, politics is an honorable business. And I think that we have to lift up that whole idea, because look at you. Look at the change that you're making, and I'm really proud of you. And you said your parents are right to the side of you? Or right by you? Well, tell your parents. Go ahead.
Yes.
Well, tell them to stick their head in so I can say hi.
Yeah. Let's see. Hold on. They had to walk out for a second, and now they're just, yeah. But,
okay, well,
They can photobomb as soon as they get back in.
yeah, here she is.
Oh, here she
Mom.
is. Hi. You must be such a proud parent. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it makes me really emotional that she's been able to make such a difference, and that our family can be contributing to such important legislation and inclusion of all people in this country. So we can't be more honored to be a part of this. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You have an amazing daughter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stella, and thank you to your mom also. And we'll round it out with Theron.
Bonjour, Anin, Dr. Biden. Chi Miigwech.
Hi.
Greetings, and thank you, Dr. Biden, for inviting the Red Cliff Band and myself today to talk a little bit about what's going on the North Shore of Lake Superior and the rural tribal regions of the United States. When the pandemic hit, there was no broadband here on the reservation that could support Zoom meetings or telehealth or anything to do with a child's education. The tribe's been struggling and expanding ever since to try to bring all these things forward, to bring broadband to not only our reservation, but also to reservations across the United States. I serve on the FCC's Native Nations Task Force, Homeland Security SAFECOM, and the First Responders Authority Public Safety Advisory Committee. All these are here so that the Native American tribes of the United States can see that broadband is very important to just the survival and the modern communications infrastructure that brings the ability for tribal members to learn, to live, to develop economically, and to become as much of a citizen of the United States as anyone else has the availability to. Here in Red Cliff, our commercial fishermen are out collecting the harvest, and the children at the Early Childhood Center are connected virtually to their teachers in their rooms. And without the investments in broadband that this administration is bringing forward through the Jobs Act and the ARPA Act, there would be no way for us to continue to do so. Only 5 years ago, 80% of the reservation didn't have broadband even capable of downloading anything, much less a Zoom meeting. With the help of the FirstNet Authority and their contractors, there's now a cell tower here on the reservations, the first cell tower built by the first responders on native lands. We've run fiber as many places as we can, but for a rural northern reservation, there's not much money to do these things. And the money that the tribe has is usually spent on its services to its membership and trying as best as possible to feed the members, bring the elders to where they need to go, and to provide roads and services. Being able to bury fiber is a luxury. Just like back in the past, the 40s, 50s, 60s, there was the rural electrification program, and then the telephones came. 100 years of telephones has not brought the same change as just a decade of broadband. We need to bring this broadband forward to not only the Native American reservations in Indian country, but also to all the rural people, so that when you sit down in Northern Kentucky, Northern California, or Northern Wisconsin, you can get on a Zoom meeting, you can get on with your family, you can see your friends, and you can be safe during the pandemic. We very much appreciate the invitation to come here today to bring Native American sovereignty and the rights and people and the communications infrastructure that your administration is providing to Native country and rural reservations. Thank you very much, Dr. Biden.
You're welcome. And Theron, you know, I was just in Navajo Nation in New Mexico just a couple days ago, and I saw the need for broadband because I went to schools and I talked to students, and they, you know, they couldn't do a lot of studying, of course, in the year of the pandemic because they didn't have broadband. So I saw it firsthand last week. And you're absolutely right that this administration is just committed to getting broadband across this nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Biden.
Well, thank you, Dr. Biden. And I think that the one thing that we've all had in common, all the stories have in common, and the accomplishments of the administration, is that the president and the first lady are truly two public servants who put the well-being and value everyone else's lives. And Dr. B, I just want to thank you for all of the hard work that you're doing, flying across this country and advocating and making a big difference in this administration and making sure that we leave no one behind. And so the Biden touch on this country has been very important. And what you all represent is showing the lives that it's making a difference in. So we want to thank you. We hope you watch the speech tonight, the joint address, and you can catch it live on whitehouse.gov/live, or you probably can catch it on any major network, but check out our website first. Thank you, Dr. B. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And goodbye.
Bye-bye.